What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. This time around, I'm going to talk about everything that you need to do and consider before you actually get into your van build. So first thing is going to be what van you actually get. I myself looked into only cargo vans. So you have three options there. It's the Ram ProMaster, it's the Ford Transit, and the Mercedes Sprinter. So I'm going to go over the pros and cons of each one and why I picked the Mercedes Sprinter. The next thing you want to consider is the budget. So you want to lay down a budget for what you estimate your van build to be. There's van builds can range from $6,000-$7,000 all the way up to the $30,000, $35,000, $40,000 depending on what kind of material you want to use, how nicely you want to build it. If you want it to be like a 4x4 or include like a roof rack on top, and a lot of things can hike up. I myself budgeted to be at $20,000, so I'm going to use relatively nicer, high quality material, but it's not going to be super top shelf kind of stuff. So this is going to be relatively quality van build that you'll see comparable to other things like nicer ones that you see online, and at least that's what I'm budgeting. Who knows what it's going to turn out to be at the end, but that is my goal, and I'm going to kind of dive a little deeper into the breakdown for the budget and why I picked what I pick. Another thing you want to do is the design. So the design, you want to be really fleshed out. Like you want to know exactly what's going to go in, where the shower is going to be, or if you want to have a shower, every component, layout, and it's going to make your life a whole lot easier when it actually comes to doing the van build. So I'm going to go over some of the SketchUp designs that I have and why I picked what I picked, and go back and forth on a design, and that design is also going to be corollary to the budget. So you want to have the budget in mind and think about generally how much each thing costs before we go into it. There's a lot of different resources out there that can kind of budget things for you, and so those are three key important things that you want to get into beforehand, and I'm gonna try to cover everything. Let's get on my laptop and let's go through some stuff. So all right, welcome everyone. Got my trusty chop before I go ahead and get started. And this is gonna be everything you need before starting the van build. I gave a high-level overview, but I wanna go into detail on each one of the 3 steps that I mentioned. The 3 steps being 1, picking the van, 2, budgeting, 3, designing. So let's just go ahead and get started. So when it comes to the van itself, I only chose cargo vans to look into. So there's other options that are smaller, things like a Volkswagen bus, or like trucks that people convert, like Ford F-150s, things like that, which are on the smaller side, way more discreet. And there's bigger ones like RVs. I found this is a good middle ground that gives you, it's discreet, more discreet than an RV where you can kind of park in regular grocery store parking spots, but have the space of kind of like an RV where you can stand up, move around, have a lot of the amenities that you'd want in a tiny home. So let's talk about the 3 options that we have really. Mercedes Sprinters, Ford Transits, Ram ProMasters. And I'm going to go over the pros and cons here. So first of all, obviously this is a given where, it just looks sexy, it looks great. Got a nice little build, outside compared to the other ones. It's just well made. It just looks like a fine piece of art. And, this is clearly just like a objective, unbiased, piece of information here. I'm not spewing any kind of propaganda for Mercedes Sprinter. Mercedes didn't pay me to say this, which, I wouldn't mind if they did. So if Mercedes, you're out there and you need some kind of spokesperson, I'm there. Now, outside of looks, let's talk about other, more number-based things. So let's think about the runs, how it runs for a long time. It's going to be durable. It stood the test of time. These Sprinters have been around for 20 plus years, and we've seen that they can run from 500,000 miles, and if you take good care of it, even up to 1 million miles in terms of the odometer. And that is huge, especially when given that the resale value is gonna be really high. So if you see vans that are $200,000, $300,000, they still sell for a good amount of money because we know that it still could go a lot more miles ahead of it. And that's just gonna be really valuable when it comes to if you ever want to sell this van down the road. Another thing is that their sizing options are really good. It's got a good length compared to the other 2. Look into the lengths and stuff that you want within your van, but I think the Mercedes has the advantage of the length, the Transits have the advantage of the height, the Ram Pros has the advantage with the width. The cons are that it's going to be expensive, and this is the biggest thing that you'll see as the cons for all these Sprinters is it's going to be expensive to buy. they start at $35,000 versus the other ones are going to be much cheaper. And the maintenance itself can get expensive. It's a German car, so especially being in America, which is where I am, the maintenance might get a little bit difficult because not a lot of mechanics are well versed in working with German cars, as well as like the tools and parts may not be available everywhere you go. The next thing is the curved walls make it difficult to work around. So I think the Transits have like this too, but not as bad as the Sprinters. The Sprinters kind of go up like this and then they flatten out. So that curve itself, you lose some space there and it's just difficult to work around. As opposed to the Ram Pro Master, which is very blocky and makes it very easy to work with. So it's kind of like, almost like a right angle when it comes to like the corners of the van. The Ford Transit is a good in-between where the quality is still good, the price is lower, and the maintenance is easy. So this is a very good in-between. I think the Mercedes Sprinter looks a little nicer, and there's a couple other concerns that I had when it comes to the Transit. But other than that, I think it's a great van and a great option as well. So it'll run from $25,000 to $40,000. I saw a few online, $32,000 to $35,000 with like, I don't know, 10,000 miles on it, brand new pretty much. And it's a great price. That is a thing for what you're getting out of it. The maintenance is easy. It's as opposed to the Mercedes, which is a diesel. Ford Transit and the Ram Pro Masters are gasoline cars, and the maintenance is easy. Ford, every mechanic deals with Ford, and the parts are easy to find. Another thing is it drives like a minivan. So for all you soccer moms out there, looking to get your itch, especially if you want a camper van but still want to, not lose that thrive of having a minivan, this is the van for you. On the cons, like the rear brakes, I've heard wear quickly, so you might have to replace the rear brakes more often than you would with the other cars. The biggest concern that I had was that the cargo van was only introduced in 2015. It hasn't really stood the test of time. Ford itself has been around for a long time, so we can assume that if they're putting out the van, it's going to last for a while. But, the oldest van has only been 6 years old now. We can't tell how long it's going to last, 10, 15, 20 years into it. If any, particular parts might break down the line. And I thought that was a valid concern and enough for me to stray away from it and go with the Mercedes Sprinter. The Ram Pro Master is going to be on the cheaper side. So if you're looking to build a more budget van on the cheaper side, you can do that and like have a van build that's like, $6,000 to $10,000, and you could have your whole van be done within $20,000, which is like cheaper than the base price of the van itself for the Transit and the Sprinter, which is a huge and great deal. So that's something to definitely keep in mind with the Ram Pro Masters. And as I said, it's square and easy to build with. The cons is it's going to be smaller. You're not going to get as much space out of it, especially the lengthwise. It's a little bit wider. So say you want to do your bed widthwise, that's going to save you some room there and you can optimize. But given that the quality itself is not as great, it can break down a little bit more quickly. The resale value is also less. But, given it's that much cheaper, maybe it's not such a bad thing to trade off with. These are the pros and cons that I've seen. Make your own decisions. You can't go wrong with any of them, but, figure out what works best for you. The next thing is budgeting a van. So when it comes to budgeting a van, this is kind of my layout of, what I've budgeted here. I went into detail on all of these in my own Google sheet, but if you'll see here, like the most expensive part is going to be electrical and the solar. And the reason is like the battery itself is super expensive. The solar panel is going to get expensive. The exterior here is like the windows, which can also get expensive. One important thing that I want you to keep in mind is I included a buffer of $1,000. Oftentimes things might not turn out to exactly how you planned it out to be. And it's good to have like that buffer, an estimation on what you expect things to cost at the end of it. This is going to be a mid-high tier kind of van build, and things can go up to like $30,000, $35,000, but obviously it's kind of in the middle. I'm going to be able to do a lot of it myself, and because I'm not having someone else do it for me, I'm saving that cost of any labor. The labor is all individually, which it is what it is, but I think I'm going to learn the most out of it. So this is the budgeting here. Let me talk a little bit more into, so say we have this budgeting right here. So this is what I laid out to be $12,400. For example, let's take the electrical. This is how we've broken it down, and the budgeted cost, the actual cost. This is the battery. This is gonna be really expensive, and it's gonna be the most expensive part. How I got into the 300 amp hours, which is like, what the capacity of the battery is. I did like a power audit on, basically I can open it up real quickly on everything, what I expect, like a coffee maker, how much watts I expected to have, a blender, projector, things like that. This is like the amp hours I needed. You calculate everything down to about, I need about 300 amp hours of lithium batteries because I expect to use this much. something like that. I'll cover more in my electrical video, but the most important part is you cover everything here. And given that, I also already ordered a lot of this stuff, and it's about $4,200. And I went into this level of detail. Here's like the insulation of the sound, there's exterior with the windows, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to actually building the van, you want to make sure you cover this. Now, this budget is really important when you go into designing the van, on whether or not the features that you have that you want in your van are able to support like the budget that you allocated for it. So think about your features, break it down into two things. One is must-haves, and next thing is nice-to-haves. So your must-haves are probably going to be things like running water and hot water and electricity. And your nice-to-haves might be like, an outdoor shower or indoor shower, like things that, you can live without, but you'd really rather have them. And then you can kind of prioritize from there. So these are the features that I've really wanted, and I laid it out like this. Make sure you consider your own features when it comes to building your van out. Let me go through a design real quick on, what I want my van to look like. So let's see here. So this is an example of, or this is like a Sketchup, which is the application for, being able to design things in 3D. And let's take a look at this. This is kind of where you walk into the van, and this is the entrance. I'm not going to have this full-fledged bathroom anymore. This is initially a thought that I flirted with, but given that I'm only showering, 5-10 minutes out of the day and go to the bathroom, hopefully not too much unless, I suddenly get IBS. But, irritable bowel syndrome things aside, I think I'm not going to be using the bathroom that much compared to my other space. And what I'm going to plan to do now is, this is ideas that I've got from other people doing their own van build, is a convertible shower, where this is a segment that's blocked off. It folds up, clips up here, and this turns into like a shower that folds, there's like a shower curtain that kind of comes down from there, and you have a little mini shower right here. And I think it works and just does the job for me. That way, this part right here, I can have a desk and have my little work from home setup with a monitor in the back, a chair that I can slide in, and I think that's going to be much more valuable than having a full-time bathroom. So that's my consideration. Make your own consideration when it comes to this. So the next thing I want to show you here is like the garage that I was mentioning earlier in my features. This garage right here is, so this space right here is the couch that converts into like a bed. And I want to have options, which is, really important for me on sometimes I want to be able to just have a bed that's set out that I can go and lie in. But other times if I want to be able to do work or host other people, having a couch right here is very nice. Given that though, I think there's a lot of space underneath that we can use and leverage like the height of the van. So this garage space is about 6 feet deep, 4 feet wide, and that way I can store things like surfboards or luggage bags or skateboards or anything like that. Any excess storage stuff can easily fit in right here, and I can leverage the good 6.5, 7 feet of height that exists in the high roof van. So this right here, just so you get a sense of what the thing looks like. Now let's go back around, and I want to show you exactly the zoom in of the middle of the van. Show you right here. So as you go in, these are steps that you want to consider. So this is the whole design and layout. Think about the upper cabinets here, the cabinets down here, the countertop, stairs, as I mentioned, to be able to get to the bedding layer, because there's a garage, so you need about 1.5 feet of height to step up onto. These are all considerations to think about. If you have a fridge, where's that going to go? And I think it's good to think about all this early on. This is the sink right here. You need all the water that's going to kind of line in from there. I think it's good to consider all that beforehand. So these are the features that I've considered, and I've designed the van in a way that I can support all the features that I want within my budget and with this good amount of buffer. So I advise, you to spend your time researching and designing beforehand. I think it'll be well worth it. And I really hope, this has been useful and helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.